All right, hello, this is tip video for the fourth worksheet, genetics cross involving two traits. It's the one that's got a little bitty rabbit on here. Hopefully you've got a good concept on the 6 vocabulary words that you have to know the difference of: heterozygous, homozygous, dominant, recessive, phenotype, and genotype. Now we're going to kick it up one more step, dealing with 2 different traits. Now I'm going to kind of work through this one and talk you through it just so that you can see the concept of how these different gametes, as you see, each gamete has 2 letters because we're dealing with 2 traits. In this particular one, we're talking about hair color and eyes. It already makes a key for you where gray is dominant and white hair is recessive, black eyes are dominant, and red eyes are recessive. So based upon that, here are some genotypes that are listed, and you are supposed to write down what the rabbit is actually going to look like. So if you're big G, little g, that means you have gray hair. And if you're little b, that means you have red eyes. So if you look at this one, little g, that's white hair with big B, which would be black-eyed rabbits. Now, if we move down here, as you can see, you've got a great, big, huge Punnett square that's already made. Step 1 is determining what the parent's genotype is. Well, in this particular one, they tell you what it is. The male rabbit is big G, little b. The mother is little g, big B, little b. Let me show you how they have this. Big G, little b, little b. Now, to figure out the gametes, you've got to use that FOIL method. First, outside, inside, last. So you're looking at 4 different ones, groupings, 2 here and 2 here. Which ones are the first one? That would be this one and this one. So that's big G, little b. Now the outside genes of the pairing, you've got this G and this B. Now you go to the inside genes, those are the ones right here. Big G, little b, and then finally the last, those 2. So big G, little b. And as you can see, all 4 gametes are the exact same combination. And that's what they wrote up here. For the mother, it's little g, big B, little b. Doing the exact same thing, FOIL, the first of the set is little g, big B. The outside, little g, little b. The inside genes, little g, big B, and the outside ones. Or the last one, sorry, little g, little b. So it's very similar, they alternate, and that's exactly, well, they wrote them in order here, but they're the exact same combinations of genes, okay? That might take a little bit of practice and it might be confusing, but if you use the first, outside, inside, last, and do your little lines like this, you will not make mistakes. Now, to fill these boxes in, make sure you group the like letters together. In other words, put the G's together, put the B's together, and put them in the order that they have. So this one would be big G, big B, little b. This one here, big G, big B, little b. big G, little g, big B, little b. Don't go so fast that you make mistakes. It's very easy to get confused. See, I made a mistake. That should be a little b, little b. Now, I will tell you with these larger problems, and you're looking at the offspring, I'm only going to ask what the phenotype would be. Because some of these problems, you are going to have a whole bunch of different genotypes, but we're most concerned on what the rabbit is going to look like. So when you're looking at the 4 different combinations, there's only 4 different ways that these babies could look like. You could have gray hair with black eyes, which is the dominant trait. You could have gray hair with red eyes, which is the dominant recessive trait. The white with black is recessive dominant trait. And then the last one is recessive recessive. Those are the only 4 different combinations of kids they can look like. And using that information, you can kind of look through here really quick. So how many out of 16 will have gray hair and black eyes? So I'm looking for a dominant pattern. Dominant. So I'm going to circle it. 1, dominant. 2, 3, 4, 5, dominant, and then dominant, recessive, and all of these rows are exactly the same. So how many? That would be 8. How many of them have the dominant recessive trait? Well, that's this one, dominant, recessive, and every single one of those. So you have 8 as well. There are no recessive dominant and there are no recessive recessive. So 0 and 0. That's how you do these problems. Now on the back, let me give you some tips. 3, 4, and 5, it's all the same rabbit problem. Okay, they give you the male genotype, they gave you the female genotype. You're going to use FOIL to write down the gametes. So you'll write 4 gametes for the male rabbit, you'll write 4 gametes for the female rabbit, okay? This is where, in this area here, is the actual problem. What's the probability? And the easiest way to draw one of these is draw a great big rectangle so that you have room. And then just split it right down in half and right down in half. And then from there, halfway through, okay? And then you're going to take the gametes. This will be 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever you came up with there, and you'll write them 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you'll do the same thing with the female gametes. Then over here, you'll write your phenotypes. It's the same key as before, so you're looking at how many are black, how many of them are gray with black, gray with white eyes, or those red eyes. Then you had white with black eyes, and then you had white with red eyes. And that's your dominant, recessive, dominant, recessive, and then you just write how many there are. Okay, now number 6 is a creature called a cyclops. It kind of looks like this. Step 1 is to figure out the key. We'll do this one together. It says cyclops has antenna that are either smooth or barbed, and this organism can be resistant to pesticides. That's like if you take a can of bug spray and you spray it and it walks through it like it's water. That's not normal. Most of the time when you spray them, they're going to die. So if you're resistant to pesticide, that is recessive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write antenna. And then I'm going to write pesticide. I'm just write pesticide, okay? So if you have barbed is dominant, so you have a barbed antenna, that's dominant, capital B. And then if you have a smooth, that's little b. And then not resistant is dominant, so I'm going to use that as capital N. And being resistant to pesticides is not normal. Okay, and then here, if a cyclop is resistant to pesticide and has smooth antenna. Okay, so let's just do it in the order that it says. The cyclop is resistant to pesticide and has smooth antenna. If it's resistant to pesticide, that means it has to be little n, and it has smooth antenna. It would have to be little b, little b. Then the other one is crossed. Cyclops of resistance is crossed with one that is heterozygous for both traits. What does heterozygous mean? It means it is dominant and recessive genes. So you have capital N, lowercase n, capital B, lowercase b. Okay, and then again, same problem. Make yourself a great big huge Punnett square. Make them big enough so that it's not so small it's hard to work. Okay, and then do the Punnett square. So you're going to need to do the FOIL method to figure out the gametes, and then you'll place them at the top and along the bottom. Then you fill out all the different genotypes for the offspring, and then you're going to write the phenotype ratios. Again, I'll write the little pattern here. You dominant, 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 recessive, recessive, dominant, and recessive, recessive. And write out what they are. Write it out and then tell me how many there are. So I'm just doing it quick so that you can see. Hopefully this will help you out figuring out the double traits, big boy problems. So good luck with it, and email me if you have any questions. Thank you.